I was kicked out of my house on Christmas Eve by my own mother. She did it with a smile, too. One of those tight, smug little grins she saves for when she thinks she's doing what's best. I still had frosting on my hands from icing the sugar cookies when she handed me a garbage bag and told me I needed to make room for real family. Real family meaning my golden boy brother, Luke, who, after failing out of 2 colleges and impregnating a girl he'd known for 3 months, was apparently the second coming. Meanwhile, I was just the daughter who paid half the mortgage, kept track of Dad's medications, and practically raised Luke when Mom couldn't be bothered. But sure, move me out on Christmas Eve. The kicker? My Christmas gift that year was a basket of leftover fruit, brown bananas, a moldy orange, a bruised pear clinging to life. Luke, meanwhile, got a brand new SUV parked outside with a bow on top, and everyone clapped like it was a damn parade. I should have walked out then, but I'd spent so many years biting my tongue, smoothing the edges, carrying their expectations like some invisible weight across my shoulders. I thought, maybe if I stay, maybe if I'm patient, maybe someday they'll see me. They never did. Growing up, I was the default adult. Mom was too stressed to deal with anything that wasn't Luke. Dad was physically present, but emotionally a ghost. When Luke smashed windows during tantrums, it was boys will be boys. When I cried after a 14-hour shift to help pay their overdue bills, I was dramatic. Every event turned into a Luke parade. My high school graduation? Luke crashed it by getting arrested for shoplifting. My college acceptance? Mom forgot to RSVP for the family brunch because Luke needed help moving. The worst part? I swallowed it all. I kept showing up, drove 4 hours every weekend to help the family while balancing 2 jobs and night classes, loaned them thousands, missed vacations, put off getting my own apartment, put off dating, put off living. And every year it got a little worse. Luke would screw up, and I'd be expected to fix it. Silent martyrdom was the currency of my worth. Until that night, when she didn't even bother hiding it anymore. "You're a grown woman," Mom said, waving her manicured hand at me like I was a stray dog on the porch. "You should have your own life by now." As if I hadn't been living their lives for the past decade. I packed my things in the dark, trying not to cry. Not because I cared about the garbage bag full of hand-me-down sweaters or the $2 in quarters rattling at the bottom of my purse, but because deep down, some pathetic part of me still wanted them to stop me. To say, "Wait, we're sorry, we love you, come back." No one did. Luke didn't even look up from his new iPhone. Dad had wandered back to the TV. Mom clicked her nails against her wine glass, humming to Silent Night. I slept in my car that night, shivering under a torn blanket in a Walmart parking lot, staring at the ceiling and wondering how my life had collapsed so quietly, so cruelly, wondering if maybe, somehow, it really was my fault. 2 weeks later, when I finally scraped together enough for a crummy studio apartment, I found a thank you card stuffed into one of my boxes. It was from Luke, thanking me for helping him become the man he was today. I laughed so hard I almost threw up. No, that was the night something inside me cracked. Something fragile and stupid and hopeful. It didn't shatter all at once. It broke in slow, sharp splinters over the next year as the reality sank in. They never loved me for me. They loved what I could give. And I was done giving. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't post a Facebook announcement. I didn't scream at them. I just stopped. Stopped answering the 2 a.m. calls. Stopped wiring emergency money. Stopped showing up for holidays where I was treated like the help. At first, they didn't notice. Then they got angry. But anger was easier to survive than being invisible. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be the good daughter. I wasn't trying to be anything at all. I was just trying to be free. And as the months went by, as the silence grew, as the guilt trips and threats started to pour in, I realized something, freedom, it tastes a hell of a lot sweeter than leftover fruit. But I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. At first, the silence between us was a cold war. I stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped driving 4 hours to fix Luke's mistakes or listen to Mom's endless monologues about how hard her life was. I let their birthdays slip by without a card, ignored the group chats. Christmas came again, and this time I spent it alone, wrapped in a thrift store blanket, sipping instant cocoa, watching cheesy holiday movies where the family always came through in the end. Spoiler, mine didn't. It took a few months before they noticed. Then the real fun began. Mom started with the guilt bombs, carefully crafted texts like, "You're breaking your father's heart. Family sticks together, even when things are hard. After all we did for you, did for me? Like tossing me out like last week's trash? Like making sure Luke's car payments were covered while I was counting change at Aldi's?" I didn't reply, not once. Then came the escalation. Passive-aggressive Facebook posts. Statuses about ungrateful children and the dangers of selfishness. Family friends reaching out with vague, concerned messages. "Heard you're going through something. We're praying for you." "Yeah, pray harder," Luke called exactly once, around midnight, sounding half drunk, half smug. "You can't just abandon us, you know. Blood's thicker than water, sis." I hung up before he could finish. They weren't used to the idea of me having boundaries. I'd been their emotional sponge for so long that the absence of my compliance was like a vacuum, sucking the air right out of their lives. They tried everything: guilt, rage, playing the victim, even fake emergencies. "Dad's in the hospital. He's asking for you," except Dad was fine. It was a routine checkup. Caught them lying through a mutual friend who worked at the hospital. It was almost funny, if it hadn't been so grotesque. The deeper I withdrew, the louder they screamed into the void. And the more I saw them for what they were, not family, not really. Parasites who fed on my time, my money, my sanity. And when I stopped feeding them, they turned feral. One day, I came home to find a letter taped to my apartment door. It was from Mom, pages and pages of carefully handwritten bullshit, talking about how hurt she was, how much she had sacrificed, how much she had suffered raising a difficult daughter, how Luke needed me now more than ever, and how good sisters don't turn their backs on blood. I didn't even finish reading it, tossed it straight into the trash without a second thought. And still, some nights, lying awake at 3 a.m., I'd wonder, am I being cruel? Am I really the selfish one? But then I'd remember Christmas Eve, the garbage bag, the fruit basket, the look of relief on Mom's face when I walked out the door. I wasn't cruel. I was surviving. It wasn't just emotional warfare either. I found out through a mutual friend small towns are great for one thing. Gossip that Mom had been spreading rumors about me, telling people I was on drugs, that I had gone crazy, that I couldn't be trusted, all because I had the audacity to say no for once in my life. The worst part? People believed her. People I grew up with. Teachers, neighbors, friends who had sat at my kitchen table 100 times. One by one, they started to vanish, unfriending me, blocking me, whispering when they saw me in town. Isolation, total and complete. It hurt. God, it hurt in ways I can't even explain. It felt like being erased from my own life, like I was a ghost walking around a world that no longer remembered I existed. But at the same time, it was freeing. No more birthday parties where I bought the cake and wasn't allowed to cut a slice. No more family dinners where I was expected to cook, clean, and then disappear when the real conversation started. No more giving until there was nothing left but an empty, hollow shell wearing my face. I started to rebuild. Tiny things at first. Found a second part-time job at a used car dealership detailing vehicles. Saved every penny. Bought real groceries instead of living off ramen and frozen pizza. Replaced my threadbare coat with a second-hand, one that didn't smell like mildew. I started therapy. Sliding scale, because insurance was a joke. Sat in a dim little room with mismatched furniture and told a woman named Rita all the ugly parts of my life. She listened. Really listened. She didn't call me dramatic. She didn't say family is everything. She just nodded and said, "You were never the problem." Sometimes I'd cry for hours after those sessions. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in my entire existence, someone said the truth out loud. I was never the problem. They were. One day, after almost a year of no contact, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I knew the handwriting immediately. Neat, forceful, a little pretentious. It was from Mom. Inside was a wedding invitation. Luke was getting married. To a girl I had met exactly once, 2 Christmases ago, when she showed up drunk to dinner and threw up into Mom's designer purse. The invitation wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to guest of Luke Johnson. No dear daughter, no we miss you, no hope you're doing well, just guest of Luke Johnson. Like I was some rando off Craigslist. And the best part? At the bottom, in tiny italicized letters, cash gifts only. I laughed so hard I almost pulled a muscle. They still thought I was the same idiot who would show up, smile, and hand over whatever scraps of dignity I had left, tied up in a bow with a check attached. They had no idea who I was anymore. And that, my dear readers, is when the idea first started to take shape. The slow, simmering thought that maybe, I didn't have to just survive. Maybe I could do more than walk away. Maybe I could finally make them feel a fraction of what they made me feel. Not with screaming, not with fists, with silence, with strategy, with the cold, meticulous kind of revenge that tastes better than any Christmas feast. I just needed to wait. And when the right moment came, I'd be ready. I wouldn't just walk away. I'd leave them with nothing but the memory of the daughter they threw away, and the echo of the door slamming behind me. The thing about walking away from toxic people is that they don't stay gone. They claw, they creep, they ooze back in when they think you're weak enough to let them. The wedding invite was just the start. A week later, I got a call from my cousin, Emily. We hadn't talked much growing up, mostly because Mom had painted her family as jealous losers who never supported us. But I guess word travels fast in small-town gossip mills. Emily wasn't calling to catch up. She was calling with receipts. Literal ones. Apparently, Luke wasn't just blowing through the family's money. He'd been helping himself to the savings account my grandparents left when they died, an account that, according to Grandpa's will, was supposed to be split equally between all grandchildren. That meant me too, except it wasn't. Turns out Mom had rearranged things after Grandpa died, claimed I waived my share because I was doing so well and didn't need it. Luke got the lion's share. So did a couple of his idiot friends, funneled through fake business ventures that somehow always ended up back in his personal bank account. And me? I didn't get a cent. Emily had stumbled across the paperwork while helping her mom clean out an attic. Bank statements, copies of transfer slips, email chains between Mom and the family lawyer, casually discussing how OP's a lost cause and better to put the money where it can do real good. Real good, meaning another round of bail money when Luke got arrested for drunk driving 3 months later. I should have been furious. I wasn't. I was something worse, calm. Because this was bigger than a garbage bag eviction or a bruised pear in a Christmas basket. This was theft, and I could do something about it. Emily agreed to help. She wasn't exactly on speaking terms with her side of the family either. Something about an argument over a loan gone wrong and an ugly Thanksgiving dinner where cranberry sauce ended up on the ceiling. She handed me everything she had. Digitized copies, backup drives, names, dates. I spent nights after work sitting at my tiny kitchen table, sorting through it all, building timelines, printing screenshots, highlighting discrepancies. My fingers cramped, my eyes blurred, but I didn't stop. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the principle. They erased me from their lives. Now, I would erase their lies. The next step was finding someone who could help me legally. Enter Jason. Jason was a lawyer who worked with the dealership where I now manage sales. Yeah, I got promoted. Turns out being meticulous and quietly furious makes you very good at selling cars. Jason had a soft spot for lost causes and family drama. Pro bono, he said when I told him the story. This one's for me. He helped me file a petition to formally audit the estate. Quietly, legally. No family fireworks yet. They didn't even know what was coming. While the paperwork churned through the court system, I kept my head down, went to work, paid my bills, ignored the growing pile of urgent voicemails from Mom that started popping up. We miss you. You need to come home. Family is everything. The wedding came and went without me. I saw the pictures on Facebook. Luke in a rental tux. His new bride clinging to him like he was made of gold. Mom beaming like she was Queen of England. And me? I was at home that night, eating Chinese takeout and highlighting sections of financial affidavits with a vengeance. A month later, the bomb finally dropped. Jason called me into his office, handed me a folder, and said 5 words that tasted sweeter than anything I had ever heard. They're going to lose everything. Turns out, the rearranging Mom had done wasn't just unethical. It was illegal. She'd forged my signature on a set of documents waiving my rights. left a paper trail a mile wide, didn't even bother to cover her tracks because she was so sure I'd never fight back. Typical. There were also irregularities with Luke's business expenses, tax evasion, fraud, money laundering if you squinted hard enough. Jason grinned as he laid it all out. You want to push this quietly and get your money? Or go loud? Loud, I said without even thinking. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about setting the record straight, making sure everyone knew exactly what kind of people they were. Jason helped me file the formal lawsuit. The court dates were set, the subpoenas were sent, and when Mom got served, she called me 32 times. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I saved the voicemails. Sobbing, screaming, threats wrapped in desperate apologies. You're tearing this family apart. We were just trying to protect you. Think about what you're doing. Blood is thicker than water. Blood might be thicker than water. But paper? Paper leaves a trail. And I had every dotted I and crossed T ready to bury them. The trial was scheduled for late fall. Small-town courthouse. Cheap fluorescent lighting. Squeaky wooden pews that smelled like lemon cleaner and lost dreams. They showed up with a lawyer who looked about 15 and terrified. Mom tried to play the loving mother card, wiping at imaginary tears, clutching a crumpled tissue, sighing dramatically every time the judge looked her way. Luke didn't even bother to dress properly. He wore jeans and a hoodie. Classy. Their defense was as pathetic as I expected. Misunderstanding, family disagreement, paperwork errors. The judge wasn't buying it, especially not when Jason rolled out the forged documents, the bank transfers, the emails, especially not when I testified, calm, clear, brutally polite, about the years of neglect, the theft, the erasure, especially not when Emily backed me up, solid as a rock. It wasn't a dramatic courtroom moment, no gasps or shocked sobs. It was quieter, sadder, more real. A slow, methodical dismantling of the fantasy Mom had built for herself. When the verdict came down, it was like watching a building crumble in slow motion. They were ordered to repay my full inheritance with penalties. Luke faced an additional investigation into his business dealings. Their bank accounts were frozen pending further review. They lost the house 3 months later. Turns out, all that rearranging they did caught up to them in more ways than one. I wasn't there to see it happen. I was too busy living my life. But I heard about it through the grapevine. And you know what? It tasted sweeter than revenge. It tasted like justice. It tasted like finally being free. And I wasn't even finished yet. Because the real reckoning, that was still coming. I didn't expect them to go down quietly. If anything, I expected the firestorm, the smear campaigns, the desperate Facebook posts about how betrayed they were, the long, wailing phone calls to anyone who would listen about their ungrateful daughter who stabbed them in the back. And boy, did they deliver. Within a week of the court ruling, Mom had plastered every inch of her social media with dramatic Bible verses about forgiveness and family loyalty. She made vague posts like sometimes the ones you raise turn against you for no reason. Luke wasn't much better. His Facebook feed turned into a non-stop pity party. GoFundMe links for unexpected legal expenses, selfies of him looking sad outside the house that was now under foreclosure. If they thought it would make me crack, they were dead wrong. I didn't say a word publicly, not a single comment, not a single counterpost, not even a shady Instagram story. I let them scream into the void, because nothing drives narcissists crazier than silence. But the real fun hadn't even started yet. You see, part of the judgment included access to financial records that had previously been unavailable to me. Once the auditors dug in, more dirt came pouring out. Stuff that had nothing to do with my inheritance, but everything to do with their lives falling apart. Unpaid taxes, defaulted loans. Luke had even tried to fake a disability claim to get government money, while simultaneously posting videos of himself doing keg stands at parties. It wasn't just karma, it was an avalanche. I watched it all happen from a distance, sipping coffee out of a chipped mug in my tiny but paid-off apartment, while they drowned in the mess they made for themselves. When the house went up for auction, I made one call, to my boss at the dealership who happened to know a guy in real estate, A few months later, the house was snapped up by a young couple from out of state. You know what the wife told me when she came in to sign the car papers? It's so weird. The previous owners just abandoned everything. Furniture, clothes, old trophies, even the Christmas decorations. I wonder if the bruised fruit basket was still rotting somewhere in the attic. I didn't tell her the history of the place, didn't tell her about the Christmas Eve eviction, didn't tell her about the screams that probably still echoed in the walls. Some stories aren't warnings, they're tombstones. Meanwhile, Luke's marriage disintegrated almost as fast as his finances. Turns out, when you marry someone who thinks budgeting means maxing out a credit card and praying for a miracle, it doesn't end well. His wife left him 6 months after the foreclosure, taking their baby and the dog with her. I'm happy for the dog. He deserved better. Mom tried to couch surf with various relatives, but funny thing, once the money dried up, so did the family loyalty. Nobody wanted to house the woman who'd spent decades treating everyone like a pawn. She ended up living with a friend from church, a woman who, rumor had it, locked up her valuables whenever Mom was around. As for Dad, I never found out where he went. He'd spent so many years fading into the wallpaper that, when it all burned down, he just evaporated. One night, about a year after the lawsuit ended, I got a letter, handwritten, no return address. It was from Mom, of course. She apologized, in the way narcissists always do, which is to say, not at all. I'm sorry you felt like you had to hurt us. I'm sorry you didn't come to us when you were struggling. I'm sorry you misunderstood our intentions. Not once did she say she was sorry for what she did. And at the bottom, the real reason for the letter, things have been very hard for me. I was wondering if you might be willing to help. There it was. The real Mom. Still treating me like an ATM with legs. Still thinking she could break me down with a few well-placed sob stories. Still thinking I was the same girl who used to hand over paychecks just to hear "good job" mumbled under someone's breath. I folded the letter neatly, set it on fire in my kitchen sink, watched the words curl and blacken and disappear. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even flinch. Because the truth was, the part of me that cared, the part of me that needed them to see me, to love me, to choose me, that part had died a long time ago. They killed it on Christmas Eve with a garbage bag and a fruit basket. And all I ever did, was bury it properly. The funny thing about revenge is that people think it's loud, screaming, smashing, public scenes. But real revenge? It's quiet. It's paperwork. It's court summons and frozen bank accounts and silence where your favorite punching bag used to be. It's watching the people who once treated you like garbage realize they can't survive without you, and knowing deep in your bones that you owe them nothing. Not your money, not your time, not your forgiveness, nothing. The final nail in the coffin came a few months later when I got a promotion. Senior sales manager, new office, new salary, new car, a shiny black SUV. The same model Mom had bought Luke all those years ago, except this one I bought for myself, cash, no guilt, no begging, no fruit baskets, just me, the keys in my hand, and a smile on my face that didn't have to be forced. And when Emily threw me a surprise party to celebrate, a real one, with real friends who actually loved me, I blew out the candles on my cake and made one wish. Never again. Never again would I shrink myself to fit someone else's broken story. Never again would I confuse loyalty with self-destruction. Never again would I let anyone, make me feel small just because it made them feel bigger. They wanted me invisible. Instead, I became unstoppable, and I still haven't looked back. Freedom wasn't fireworks. It wasn't champagne corks popping or dramatic music swelling in the background. It was quieter than that. Softer. It was waking up on a Sunday morning in clean sheets, in a sunlit apartment filled with things I bought with my own money. It was sipping coffee on the balcony, watching the city come alive, knowing I didn't owe a single second of my peace to anyone. No screaming voicemails, no frantic texts begging for help, no sudden demands dressed up as family obligations. Just me, alive, whole, enough. For the first time since I could remember, my life was mine. There were moments, of course, when the past tried to creep back in. The smell of cinnamon at Christmas, The sound of a car pulling into a driveway too fast. Random flashes of Luke's smug grin, Mom's tight, fake smiles, Dad's empty stare across the dinner table. But the memories couldn't hurt me anymore. They were just ghosts, rattling chains in a house I no longer lived in. I built something better. Started small, a side hustle flipping used cars. Learned how to negotiate, how to spot a lemon from a mile away. Eventually opened my own dealership with Emily's help. She became the sister I should have had all along, the kind who showed up, who cheered for me, who didn't see love as a transaction. We weren't rich, not by Instagram standards, but we were steady, solid, real. And that was everything. Funny thing is, Mom tried to slither back into my life after she heard about the dealership. Showed up at the grand opening, of all things, wearing her best poor me face, dragging a suitcase behind her like some refugee from a war she started herself. She didn't even recognize the woman standing in front of her. I wasn't the tired, desperate, eager to please daughter she remembered. I was wearing a tailored suit, sharp heels, confidence stitched into every seam. She opened her mouth to speak, some sad, rehearsed line about family and forgiveness, and I just smiled, held up one finger, then turned and walked away. Didn't say a word, didn't look back. That was the real revenge. Not the court cases, not the money. The real revenge was living a life so full, so good, so untouchable, that they couldn't reach me even if they tried. Luke tried too, in his own pathetic way. A few months later, he rolled into the dealership looking like something the cat dragged in. Paunchy, balding, desperate. Tried to charm me. Tried to act like the years of cruelty and betrayal were just family stuff we could laugh about now. He wanted a deal on a car. Wanted me to hook him up because, we're family. I gave him a car, all right. Sold him the worst lemon on the lot, a sputtering, rusted-out sedan that looked fine from the outside, but would need thousands in repairs within 6 months. Made sure he signed every as his waiver. Took a photo of him smiling next to it for the dealership's happy customers board. And when he peeled out of the lot, engine already rattling, I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. Was it petty? Sure. But after a lifetime of being the doormat, of swallowing every slight, of pretending I didn't notice the bruises they left on my heart, it felt goddamn therapeutic. Besides, he was getting off easy. The real punishment was living with the reality they created. They taught me family was conditional. They taught me love was transactional. They taught me loyalty was a one-way street paved with guilt. And I learned, but not the lessons they wanted. I learned to choose myself, to protect my peace like it was a living thing, to walk away without leaving a forwarding address. Emily and I eventually bought a little house outside the city, nothing fancy, just a cozy place with a lemon tree in the backyard and a porch swing where I could drink my coffee in the mornings. Every Christmas we decorate it together, real decorations, real laughter, real love, no garbage bags, no leftover fruit baskets, no knives tucked behind fake smiles, just light and warmth and peace. Last Christmas, while hanging fairy lights on the porch, Emily turned to me and said, it's their loss, not yours. And for the first time, I didn't just nod politely. I believed it. It's funny, all my life, they called me heartless whenever I tried to stand up for myself. Selfish, ungrateful, dramatic. They said I was heartless. Maybe I am. But if putting my heart first, if refusing to bleed for people who only ever wanted my wounds makes me heartless, then good. I'd rather be heartless than hollow. I'd rather be heartless than broken. I'd rather be heartless than theirs. They said I was heartless. And for once, they were right. Story 2. I received this invitation after contributing more than $18,000 to my brother's wedding. 1, if she's attractive. If not, come by yourself. I refrained from arguing. I brought her. She gave a folder to the bride. A few hours later, the wedding was canceled, and my brother was frantically phoning his attorney. I wish I could claim that I was taken aback by the invitation, which exploded in my mailbox like a fiery taunt that stung the edges of my optimism. However, what is the reality? It hardly registered. It reminded me of Roger. It had the typical black tie favored nonsense. A location that shouted Daddy's credit line, and extremely elegant cursive names written on pearl cardboard. I knew I would be there, so I quickly glanced over the RSVP requirements. After all, I'd contributed to its funding. Then I noticed it, +1, whether she's attractive. If not, come by yourself. In his own handwriting, a little smiling face at the conclusion. It was humorous because of it. I didn't discard it. I didn't give him a call. I didn't sigh at all. I just placed it next to the partially consumed bread on my kitchen counter and stood there for a while, gnawing the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. $18,000. So I gave him that. No inquiries were made. There are no conditions. Because I believed that Roger had finally matured to the point where he was prepared to settle down for the first time in his affluent man-child existence. Make a new beginning. Don't be the man who evaluated women based on Instagram filters and cup size. I hoped the wedding had some significance. Then he forwarded that message to me. I didn't argue then. I didn't arrive with a scene or a soapbox. I brought her. The response came instantly. At the door, Roger was giggling with the groomsmen as if he were trying out for a beer ad. Smugness in all teeth. His entire body tensed as if someone had given him a sucker blow to the belly as he glanced up and spotted us. He bounced back quickly, but not quickly enough. His grin wavered. His voice broke. He hardly finished shaking hands with one of Camilla's uncles before he hurried up to me, and I watched him excuse himself in the middle of laughing. "Why on earth are you doing this?" His voice was sharp and low, as if we were conspirators in a hostage scenario. I blinked. Going to your wedding, he was not amused. "You brought her here, but why?" He gave a hiss. I looked at him as innocently as possible. "You asked if she's attractive." As if I had kicked a dog in front of him, Roger looked at me. For the record, my +1 remained silent. With a faint smile, she strolled by him, moving with the deliberate, elegant serenity of a lady who knows precisely what she's doing, toward the bar. As if she may explode, Roger watched her leave, and then he went into a spiral. During the vows, he twitched like he had bees in his tux the whole ceremony. Throughout the toasts, he kept looking over his shoulder. His smile resembled a dental spasm more than anything else. When they sliced the cake, his hands were trembling so much. A corner of the top layer was removed when the knife slipped. Even Camilla appeared perplexed, but she dismissed it with a laugh. The reception followed. People pretended that this was a fairy tale finale, rather than the start of a train disaster as they danced, laughed, and raised champagne toasts. And in the midst of it all, my +1 approached Camilla and gave her a folder in a cool, collected manner. Simple handoff, no scene, no drama. Camilla pulled it open. After reading the first page, everything was different. She didn't yell, did not pass out, didn't act like a soap opera and slapped people across the face. She simply got up, left the ballroom, and vanished. Roger hurried after her. The music began to be whispered by the guests and stuttered to a halt as if it had lost its beat. Then someone, the wedding planner, I believe, took the mic and announced that there had been a small delay. "Enjoy the hors d'oeuvres, please." After 10 minutes, one of the bridesmaids left and declared that the wedding was over. No follow-up, no explanation. Roger Hubbard's idyllic day abruptly devolved into a public relations disaster. I thanked the valet as I quietly left the venue and observed Roger standing in the marble foyer's corner, muttering angrily into the receiver while holding the phone to his ear. I only heard a single, clearly audible phrase, "Now I have to talk to my lawyer." If you're curious about how we got here, consider how a wedding that had a lawyer on speed dial devolved into a quiet scandal. Roger and our family, you must understand. The same goes for saying, meet the intoxicated driver first if you wish to comprehend the collision. The golden child wasn't all that Roger Hallberg was. Every teenage heartthrob in a CW drama was modeled after him. Tall Smirky was inexplicably hurt, except that his sense of responsibility was the only thing harmed. Every time he remembered to put the milk back in the refrigerator, my parents adored him as if he had cured cancer. If you got to be in math, he was too creative for numbers. If he crashed Dad's car at 17 while intoxicated guys will be boys. When I informed them he might have murdered someone, Mom stated I needed to quit being jealous or jealous. Right. Meanwhile, I got grounded once for placing a sticker on my bedroom door since it constituted irreversible damage to the property. That's the type of household we come from, where Roger's dating. Life was regarded like a sport they could all root for. Dad used to give him advice like, don't text back too fast, keep her guessing. Mom called it playing the game. If I ever mentioned a female, she'd squint and inquire, "Oh, is she nice?" Which was code for not hot enough for Roger, but good for you. It sounds good when they call me the responsible one, but it turns out that it's just their polite way of expressing that I wasn't charming enough to get away with being terrible. Roger had a new chick every time. Always. From middle school until maturity. There was a constant flow of advice to avoid becoming overly involved. Connections. He would wow them, charm them, and take them on expensive dates. But when the praise stopped coming, he would leave them. Then she was there. Her name was unknown to me at the time, simply because she was the female Roger brought along on that absurd trip. I assume it was Bobby, the one he wouldn't stop talking about. Or perhaps a picture-perfect place in the Maldives that costs more per night than my rent each month. Months passed while he boasted about it, told everyone that he did it without any assistance. Said that because the hotel workers adored him, he received an upgrade. Said that because she became very attached to him, he had to gently let her go because she was infatuated with him. It sounded like another victory lap thanks to him. Another stunning girl with big eyes who had no idea what she was getting herself into. It was only a stopover before his next big ego trip. However, what is the reality? It wasn't a flex trip. It was a prelude. I learned the truth about what actually transpired 2 years later. Under the guise of paying for reserved flights and sharing travel arrangements, he asked her, Stephanie, and Mauro to join him on the trip. The entire dream informed her that he intended to reward her and that he had savings. She took him at his word. After arriving, checking in, ordering wine, and taking selfies at sunset, Roger abruptly encountered a card issue. Just a small problem, bank glitch, completely transient. Could she simply see him till it went away? It didn't ever clear. The first supper was paid for by her, followed by the second. Then the excursions, the boat trip, the massages, and the $500 meal on the beach to create memories. He promised tremendous things, told her that upon their return, he would Venmo everything. She took him at his word. What did she get instead? I was ghosted, a week following their return to the United States. She was blocked by Roger, changed his phone number, vanished, left her with credit card debt of thousands, a broken heart, and the type of psychological trauma from which you take a long time to heal. Additionally, the attraction alone buried her because she was not wealthy. She nearly filed a lawsuit. Nearly. However, it would have required her to endure judicial proceedings, interrogation, and humiliation in front of her family. She let it go then. In a way, she retained everything. The hotel bills that didn't even include her, the screenshots, the receipts, and the chats in which he promised to reimburse her. For starters, every deception, every charge, every broken promise, the massage as she waited alone. All of this was unknown to me until 2 months ago. I accidentally bumped into her. Sitting at the same bar is a friend of a friend. She recognized me right away. I didn't recognize her. Just that I felt like I should apologize to her because of the way her eyes were cool, calm, and keen. We started talking even before she said anything. At first, she didn't mention Roger. Asked me where I lived and what I did. The type of lighthearted talk that doesn't break the ice. She then inquired, "Is your brother still a professional con artist, or did he retire?" As the bar became quieter and the cocktails heavier, then something clicked. I paid attention. She filled me in on everything, nor with tears, nor with a lot of drama. Just the facts. As if she had practiced it 100 times in her mind, and suddenly had a listener. I didn't interrupt, I didn't stand up for him, and I didn't have any doubts. I assumed I would throw away the wedding invitation when I received it, perhaps include a middle finger in the margins of the RSVP when you return it. But I was halted by something. Nor pettiness, nor retaliation. Finalization. Roger had exploited and deleted, but he never paid for it. Not financially, not socially, and not at home. Every time, he left clean. This time, however, he was marrying a bright woman. Someone who wasn't worthy of beginning a life on false pretenses. So I gave Stefania a call. I didn't request that she cause a commotion. She didn't blow anything up at my request. I was honest with her. He was still the same. Yes, she replied. She displayed the file to me. She had saved all of this time. Like an accountant constructing a case, it is arranged, labeled, and itemized. The emotional timeline is just as important as the financial one. The betrayal, the promises. Everything was printed, placed in a pristine black folder, and brought to the wedding. I kept her identity a secret until it was finished. Right up until the wedding. Until Roger was frantically phoning his attorney. That woman in the black dress, the one who gave the bride a folder as if it were nothing and smiled courteously. Tomorrow, that was Stephanie. It didn't matter which girl he cursed. He left the girl in ruins. The girl with the match now, as well as that folder. It wasn't retaliation. Justice was served. No one knew why the wedding was off. No announcement was made. No formal justification, just silence. Camilla left without a word. Roger vanished shortly after, and the guests were left blinking under the chandeliers, still holding half-empty glasses of champagne like props in a paused movie. The first few people trickled out awkwardly. Then the band started packing up. Eventually, even the waitstaff stopped pretending the night was salvageable. Most of Roger's friends looked confused. Some of them looked relieved. My parents, on the other hand, looked furious. But not at Roger. Oh, no. Mom had that tight, brittle smile she wears when she's about to say something horrible in a tone that sounds almost polite. I'm sure Camilla just got overwhelmed. She told the cousins near the dessert table, "Some women can't handle real commitment." Dad nodded along like they were experts on the psychology of young brides. Like their son's wedding hadn't just collapsed in front of them because of a folder. A single folder that Stefania had handed over like it was nothing more than a seating map. Roger didn't return home that night or the following. The first wave of post-wedding rumors occurred 2 days later. Camilla had gone silent, deactivated her social media, canceled her honeymoon tickets. No official announcement suddenly vanished, which meant, of course, the conjecture increased. One of Roger's buddies posted something imprecise and oily. Some people expose their true colors when it's too late. Proud of you for remaining strong, dude. Another observed that Camilla had always been cold and calculating, which was rich coming from the guy who once went blackout drunk at a Christmas party and tried to kiss the coat rack. The consensus online was immediate. Camilla bailed. Camilla crushed his heart. Poor Roger. Stephanie and I said nothing. I wasn't interested in a public conflict. But quiet doesn't always protect you. My phone rang on the third day. Mom was the one, not even a greeting from her. Just jumped right in. What did you do? I perched on the side of my bed and inhaled deeply. Good to hear from both of you. Don't act foolish, Daniel, she yelled. Roger filled us in on everything. Yes, he probably did. You brought Stefania just to create drama, he added. That you attacked Camilla on her wedding day after manipulating her into doing a stunt. Dad was pacing with a drink of scotch, and I could almost hear him in the distance. Giving her lines, I said. Did Roger explain the contents of the folder to you? The point isn't that. She lost her temper. On the most important day of your brother's life, you made him seem foolish. I didn't laugh, even though I wanted to. Maybe he shouldn't have embarrassed her by draining her bank account and disappearing 2 years ago, I simply stated. She wasn't astonished, judging by the pause and the ruthless silence that followed. I'm just angry. I really spoke it out. When she eventually answered, "We're a family," her voice was low and shaky with feigned pain. "This is not how you betray family." I stated I didn't betray anyone. I just stopped filling in for him. Click. She ended the call. The story began to change on day 5. Riley, Camila's cousin, messaged me, hesitant and brief. "Hey, I'm aware that anything occurred. All I want to know is the reality." I asked Stefania about it. She gave a nod. Thus, we forwarded the digital files to Riley. Everything. It spilled a day later, not by us. Riley insisted it wasn't deliberate. Someone in the group chat said that. I forwarded it because I couldn't believe it. Then, like wildfire, it spread. All of a sudden, the horrible narrative was public. Not just the trip's expenses and receipts, but also the precise dates and text message screenshots in which Roger informed Stefania that he planned to travel to a specific location only a few weeks after he and Camila began dating. It was more than deception. It was emotional deception. Like a wedding cake, lies are piled. At first, Camila's pals discreetly verified the timeline. Then, one of Roger's previous Instagram posts had a public remark. Imagine being revealed by a legend about a folder. One more. The therapist must be worn out. The comments were quick. His employer's email asking for an immediate values assessment, followed by the direct messages. Roger made an effort to limit the harm. He shared a screenshot from the Notes app, stating that although he was not flawless, he had always behaved lovingly. After half an hour, he turned off the comments. 7th day. The calls resumed. Mom. Next dad, then Roger. I didn't pick up this time. I didn't have to. I learned everything from the voicemails. You've destroyed him. My mother remarked in a shaky voice. He's disintegrating despite our best efforts. Dad was blunter. Does this go any farther public? To us, you are dead. Roger sent a superb message. I hope you're content. The family of Camila is contemplating legal action. I'm losing everything. I hope you're proud of yourself, as is that insane bitch. Reddit user Stephanie raised an eyebrow. Charming. I only used one emoji in my response. The go-ahead. On day 9, Roger and Camila's father ended their business collaboration. The values review was not even awaited by his supervisor. That afternoon, they released him, and Stephanie finally fulfilled her 2-year-long dream. She brought a lawsuit, monetary losses, psychological suffering, and deception. It was sanitized, expert, impervious to bullets. Within hours, Roger learned. He had hired a lawyer with money he didn't have by day 10. He then retaliated against me for a slander lawsuit. Stefania and I were aware of his angle from the beginning, that we had planned to ruin his life in retaliation. He said that we purposefully altered the story to ruin his relationship, job, and mental health by fabricating portions of the folder and inflating timings. It wasn't even the worst part, though. The 12th day was the worst. Someone knocked on my door with an official mail. A sworn declaration from Rebecca Lane, who claimed to have overheard Stefania and me in a cafe weeks before to the wedding, was enclosed, arranging the entire situation as if it were a perverted version of the social Jenga game. A phony eyewitness? I'd learn later that she was an actor. However, I was sitting on the couch at that same time, my hands shaking, my pulse pounding, the document on my lap. Stefania was looking up the name already. It buzzed on my phone. Mom was the one. I took out a loan on the house with your father. Her voice was scratchy as she spoke. Roger is fighting this with our aid. For your own sake, you'd best hope you're mistaken. I peered out the window. It was snowing, calm, steady. Everything else sounded loud, unsteady, risky. I didn't respond to her. I simply hung up, remarked, turning back to Stefania. We must complete this. The night we received the affidavit, I was awake. Stephanie remained seated on the sofa. The laptop is open. She searched through every reference to Rebecca Lane, fingers flying. She came across a few listings for local theaters. The headshot screamed aspiring soap star who never quite got her villain arc, and there were 2 paid evaluations from the Honeybee Fringe Festival. We had laid out her entire fictitious career by 3 in the morning. Her relationship with my parents was the only thing lacking. The wait wasn't too lengthy. Stephanie, I received an anonymous DM account 2 days later. Only a single line. They gave her $8,000 up front. On the stand, it was expected that she would cry. A grainy screen capture of a Venmo payment between Walter Hallberg and RL Communications LLC was included. The thread had been located. We only needed to pull the start of Roger's trial. The plan was to have a circus. He arrived with an expensive attorney and a demeanor that shouted misinterpreted genius. Denial, gaslighting, and Polish rhetoric about emotional misalignment and perceptual gaps were all used in his defense. On the second day, Rebecca took the stand. She exuded a theatrical, over-rehearsed nervousness that is only effective on stage, not sworn in. She reeled out a script that was obviously memorized when asked to recount what she had heard. They were going to hold him accountable, she claimed. At the wedding, they were going to ruin him. Wow, these folks are vengeful, I thought at the time, anticipating gasps, She hesitated. There was stillness for her. Then his attorney, Stephanie, got to her feet. The Mississippi Lane. Can you identify this picture? They printed, enlarged, and displayed the Venmo screenshot as if it were the last piece of evidence in a murder case. Rebecca blinked, stalled, stated that she would need to with her agency. Her voice broke. Her confession came 2 hours later. First off the record, she later formally said that she was contacted by family friends who promised to pay her to correct the record. The affidavit was already prepared. She only needed to start everything in motion by signing the judge's face. Like a wedding cake exposed to the rain, Roger's entire case fell apart. I got every cent of what Stephanie lost, returned with interest after being ordered. The judge recognized the public slander, the deception, and the emotional pain. The record was updated with a notation. Future obstruction or perjury charges were being considered. From my parents and Roger, for the first time in months, I felt as though I had finally let out a breath when I left that courthouse. Roger avoided eye contact with me. His criminal record was made public as soon as the fallout was swift. Financial wrongdoing was the official allegation against him, unable to get a new work, unable to obtain a loan. In a discreet message to his investors, Camilla's father distanced himself from a person who was no longer involved in our business. Overnight, his social media accounts vanished. No more depressing growth quotes. No more old pictures that have the phrase "from nothing to something" in the caption. He wasn't a nothing. Finally, he was recognized for who he truly was. It wasn't well received by my parents. The home was lost. When the payback demand arrived, the loan they took out to engage Roger's legal team put them in default. A relative of mine called. They relocated to a tiny apartment in what they used to refer to as a shady area of town. They made one final attempt, but they never gave me a call. The subject line of an email. Can we have a conversation? The body? You still have us as your parents. The done is the done. The family moves on. Let's take a seat. Only us. She doesn't have to be involved. Just entitlement. No names, no excuses, disguised as a peace. I didn't answer. Over my shoulder, Stephanie read the message. She gave a little grin, content yet exhausted. They still believe they are the major characters, she said. That was the first time I had ever laughed. I moved in with Stefania 3 months later, not in the happy ending fashion of a dramatic film. Naturally, the majority of our time was already being spent together, whether it be for work, cooking, grocery list arguments, or recovering. She even regained her balance, obtained a new position, settled some outstanding debt, took up a stray cat that she called Venmo, adapting. I didn't have to make her life better. She didn't have to confirm mine either. Nevertheless, we discovered something unexpected amid the chaos. Calm. Not the sort you get when everything goes according to plan, but the type of feeling you get when you finally let go of things that you never had. At the grocery store, I ran into Roger again. He was at the area with frozen foods. He would be invisible if he wore sunglasses like that indoors. He winced when he saw me. I remained silent. I just went by him after grabbing my box of eggs. I couldn't help but look over my shoulder, though. He remained standing there, gazing into the freezer as if it had a map of the mess he had created. It didn't. Blood is thicker than water, as they say. The complete quotation, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb," means that the bonds you choose to form are stronger than the ones you are born into. This is what people often overlook. Thus, Stefania and I severed all contact with Roger and the Hallberg. No lengthy explanations, no drama, nothing but quiet. And sometimes the loudest thing you can say is to remain silent. 6 months later, the lottery was not won by us. We didn't take a bike into the evening. We simply continued. Now Stefania and I reside in a little, slightly tilted flat with excellent light and poor plumbing. Over groceries, we quarrel. She scatters coffee cups all over the place. We laugh a lot, but I keep misplacing my keys. And now that we don't know anyone anymore, we sleep better. I have yet to hear from my parents. As far as I knew, they were attempting to sue the bank for the voluntary home loan they had taken out. I presume that Roger continues to place the blame on everyone but himself. There is no news. The file. I retained a copy. It's in a drawer with a half-used notepad and my old passport. I look at it every now and then. As a reminder, not out of animosity, karma might occasionally require a little assistance getting to the correct address, despite the belief held by some that it is cosmic. Indeed, I could have handled things in a different way. Perhaps I went too far. Or perhaps I finally stopped allowing people to treat me disrespectfully just because they have the same last name. Tell me, please, have I gone too far? Would you have walked away or done the same? Tell me in the comments below. Tell me what you think. Additionally, please click subscribe if you would like to see more articles like this one. Story 3. I repaired the plumbing, rebuilt the roof, and contributed $38,000 toward my parents' mortgage. The house would be mine, they declared. After that, I located the will. My brother got everything. I refrained from arguing. I simply left and did something inconspicuous that they didn't anticipate. The well was not what I was searching for. I wanted to find the modem. My mother had contacted me in a panic once more on a Tuesday afternoon. Since Adam had a Zoom interview, it appears that the Wi-Fi outage was a disaster. I didn't inquire as to why he didn't simply fix it on his own. Adam doesn't do tech, money, job, or life, as I already knew. Actually, as usual, I traveled across town to the house where I was raised, paid for, and repaired tile by tile before entering. As if I were the IT department, my mother met me at the door. She failed to pay. He's freaking out, thank God. He was, of course. I went directly to the dining room and squatted down behind the cabinet that houses their old router conduit that is taped to a 1997 surge protector. Behind that was a pile of 10-year-old home and garden magazines. The state plan was written in dramatic black font, resembling the script for a soap opera, and was presented in a thick, cream-colored folder. I refrained from searching through it. I didn't have to. The first page was already peeking out like a horrible secret, attempting to confess, and it was only partially open. For a moment, I gazed at it, thinking, what if I didn't look? What if I just resolved the Wi-Fi issue and resumed acting as though nothing was wrong? However, it takes energy to fake, and I was worn out. I opened it, took a seat, and started reading. I'm referring to skimming when I say reading because I was already feeling queasy by sentence 3. Adam Baker's home at 218 Elm Street. Adam Baker's retirement and savings money. Adam Baker's possessions, jewels, and car. Last words. We have faith that Emily, our daughter, will comprehend and carry on being the strong, self-reliant lady she has always been. I didn't disclose that I paid my mortgage for 6 years. The roof is not mentioned. The water heater was replaced by me. I covered the cost of the restroom. After viewing 40 YouTube videos, I bought myself a new one. Just a casual statement, as if I were the Labrador family member who wouldn't object to my bed being given away. I blinked as I sat there for a minute. Then, like something breaking inside of me, I laughed and came out cold and dry. I was about to close the folder when my mother entered. "Have you fixed it, wifey?" she questioned. Still grinning, I asked. Adam is really stressing out. According to him, it's for some distant project involving a design or marketing business. I'm not sure. I gave a nod. Now it's functioning. She clasped her hands like if I had done something magical. You are the greatest. I displayed the folder. I discovered this. Her hands descended gently as she froze. Oh, that. It was not intended for you to. Well, it's just something I worked on with your father some time ago. Yes, I did read it. Like I was leaving a remark on a weather app, I stated in a casual manner, "Well done. Overall, Emily will comprehend the part." She made an uncomfortable adjustment. "Sweetheart, it isn't. Don't interpret it that way. We simply assumed you were consistently so steady. And, Adam is doing okay." Yes, I was aware that Adam was 27 years old and still received emergency funds from our parents to pay for his vintage sneakers and vape subscription. I was aware that he had left 2 majors and attributed them to negative energy. I was also aware that he couldn't prepare toast without triggering the house's smoke alarm. I inquired. "The one that I have been repaying." She gave me an uneasy grin, as though my tone was a bit too harsh for someone who had just found out they had been excluded from a future they had helped finance. "By then, we thought you would have your own apartment, this residence. The main goal is to provide Adam with stability. A basis, correct, as I'm not in need of one. All I do is construct them." like a fish that has lost its ability to breathe, her mouth expanded and closed. It's not intended to be unjust. Obviously not, I said while standing. It makes sense. Ownership is not necessary for the individual who pays the expenses. Isn't that how it operates? I appreciate the reminder as well. Why face back? I asked. I'll take care of myself. She didn't come after me. My name was not called. I felt as though someone had thanked me for being so trustworthy and softly slid a knife between my ribs as I made my way to my car. The owner thought heating was optional, so I sat in my little rented flat that night, chilly in the winter, and looked at the ceiling until it blurred. After that, I decided. I didn't shout. On Facebook, I didn't share a dramatic quotation. I didn't demand an apology while driving back. That would mean I believed they were worthwhile. Rather, I took out my laptop and completed 3 tasks. I had set up a monthly transfer to magically make the mortgage vanish, but one canceled it. I didn't reside in the house I was supposed to inherit, so this was my unofficial rent payment. 2 shut off all automatic payments for garbage, energy, water, and even the internet. While Adam concentrated on discovering himself, I had been covertly sponsoring. 3 evidently thought I was their underpaid office assistant, so they erased the shared Google Drive where I kept scanned invoices, tax paperwork, and maintenance records. Like removing sutures from a sore that never completely healed properly, it felt strangely pleasant. My dad left a message on my phone the next morning. Hey, just letting you know. The mortgage failed. Are you able to check your account? I gazed at it. No salutations. Thank you for resolving the Wi-Fi, but no. One more thing to expect. I typed another task. I believed Adam owned the house. In a minute, he might be able to check his account. No answer. Only the small, visible check mark. I wasn't nervous for the first time in years. I was liberated. Betrayal is a problem because it doesn't start out loud. It begins subtly and in inconsequential ways. For example, Adam received a bike for his birthday when I was 10, while I received socks. Or when my mother commented, "That's sweet, but Adam's got a real shot at business," when I was accepted into the state college art program. Or when Adam was playing video games in the living room when I got home from my 3rd part-time stint in a row. On the table is the outstanding electricity bill. Despite our agreement that he would pay for utilities and I would pay for groceries. My parents used to say that Adam was still figuring things out after more than 10 years, and that I was the one who was steady and didn't need as much. They intended for him to stumble. It's your turn to sweep. Once I located the will, I kept that to myself. Not my father, not Adam, not even my closest pal. I told my mother what I had to say. After that, I left. No begging, no signs. Nothing but quiet. However, I halted, stopped answering texts that said, "Are you able to Venmo the groceries? My card is gone." Stopped including toilet paper in my order for their home from Amazon. Adam isn't skilled with tools, so they stopped traveling over every weekend to fix things quickly. When I first waited, nothing occurred. You were gone for a week. Then everything started to go apart like clockwork. "Hey, did you cancel the Wi-Fi?" texted Adam. Zoom ejected me. "Not my house, remember?" I said. He didn't reply to the SMS. Then my mother arrived. "Emily, water bills are past due. Did your card have a problem?" "No, there wasn't. My card worked perfectly." I wasn't patient. I didn't respond. It was because I was testing a theory, not because I was spiteful. Who will take up a bucket if I quit fixing the leaks? Warning, they didn't. The trash wasn't picked up at the end of the month. Adam's job interview was unsuccessful, and the power bill contained late fines. It has to do with time and technical difficulties. And because I had spent years defending myself, I remained silent during it all, negotiating for fundamental respect for years, protecting limits for years that no one else bothered to uphold. I had finished describing my value. They were uneasy with the stillness. A change in tone was evident to me. The tone of my mom's text softened. My father began to add, "I hope his messages find you well." As if he'd picked it up from a sequence of business emails. I even got a voicemail from Adam. "Here, that never occurred, so perhaps we ought to discuss certain things." Perhaps the will was not executed very clearly. It was, I believe, some sort of draft. Mom and Dad took care of it, nevertheless, I guess. "I hope all is well with you." That voicemail wasn't about clarity, so I didn't return the call. I was no longer giving them control, which was what he was all about. The funny thing about space, though, is this. You begin to realize what was always there once you get there. I became aware of my fatigue, in my bones as well as in my body. I would begin cleaning my place and then stop in the middle. I had already used all of my energy repairing a house that wasn't even mine, not because I was lazy. I started sleeping early, preparing food for myself, listening to music that made me think of no one in particular. I took out a dusty canvas one evening that I hadn't worked on in more than a year. Up till 3 a.m, I painted. When I glanced at my living room's chaos the next morning, I had an odd feeling. Joy. Then it dawned on me. I had been working hard to gain a spot in a home that would never be mine. Not spiritually, legally, or emotionally. The will was never the issue. The will was unavoidable due to decades of little decisions. And the most terrifying aspect? I probably would have continued to give if I hadn't discovered that folder, due to habit, out of affection, from the conviction that perhaps, just possibly, remaining faithful for a sufficient amount of time might result in being appreciated. It's not. It just becomes a tool. As a result, I didn't wait for them to be fixed. I made no demands for a second opportunity, a fresh will, or a miraculous rebalancing of the scales of justice. Rather, I began to construct something myself. And it wasn't for them this time. I chuckled when I initially saw the listing. Not aloud, not in a big way. It was just a dry, quiet little laugh that came out like tire air. Bless her nosy nature, it was Lorraine once more. He sent me a screenshot via text. Look familiar? There were 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms at 218 Elm Street. Thanks to me, the roof is new, improved plumbing. I also like the bathroom's wonderful old tile. A whole weekend of back agony in me. Then the $390,000 asking price, accompanied with a letter. This owner-motivated home needs some care. Translation: Adam neglected to clean the gutters before the storm and applied duct tape to the downspouts. The house I had invested years of time, money, and effort into was sitting on the market like an uncomfortable ex, trying to appear nice on a dating app, and I glanced at the picture of it, and I had no feelings. No sadness, no rage, simply a silent sense of relief, since it was now visible to the outer world as well. The deterioration, the neglect, the fissures, and above all, the absence. I'm not there. Since the day I discovered the well, I had not entered that house. However, when it became more realistic, the price decreased while using phrases like motivated seller. Additionally, it seemed like closure for his illness. My own life, meanwhile, had begun to breathe once again. On the outskirts of town, I moved into a little, fixer-upper condo. There are 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, peeling wallpaper, and uneven floors. Yes. However, it was mine, and I was free to place lights in the hallway and paint the cupboards green without anyone's consent. I began sharing videos of the renovations on the internet. First, small things. A video of me taking out the carpet from the 1970s. An oddly sentimental voiceover discussing caulking holes in the walls. I painted over old water stains in this video, which has the statement, "Not all damage is permanent. A portion of it just requires attention." For me, it was supposed to be a project with a deadline, evidence that I was restoring something that had been destroyed. However, it was discovered. The number of likes grew to thousands. Comments were flooding in. I have never seen a more serene remodeling account than this one. I sense it in the spackle, girl who injured you. Is it the dynamics of your complete family or a house? You seem to be speaking things that I have never uttered aloud. I didn't respond, just continued to publish, continued to build. Because when I worked on this house, it truly improved, unlike the one I left behind. And then there was a knock. It was a Sunday evening. I was sitting barefoot on the floor with a bowl of cereal and a feeling of success after I had just completed repainting the kitchen trim. Adam and my parents were standing uncomfortably in a line, as if they had practiced it in the car, but I wasn't expecting visitors when I opened the door. Adam, who was wearing the same hoodie he most likely slept in, was worn out, unshaven, and had sunken eyes. As if it were a sacrifice, my mother grasped a manila folder in both hands. In just 2 months, my dad appeared to have aged 5 years. "Hello, my love." With a quivering voice, my mother spoke. They weren't invited in, leaning on the doorframe, that is. "We must speak," she said. I assumed. I crossed my arms as I spoke. My father cleared his throat. "The home? It's not selling, not even close. Despite the inspection report, we had a buyer. There's a problem with the mold, as well as the base." "I am astonished." "Flatly," I replied. "It appears as though it was not maintained." My mother moved closer and placed the folder in my grasp. The well was updated. I blinked. "Didn't accept it. Now it's in your name," I said. She said, "Everything. Things wasn't until things began to come apart that we realized how much you had done. When people only notice your effort once, it's a great moment. You are no longer there to make things simple." I said, "I didn't come here to get even. I just quit solving other people's concerns." Adam's voice was broken and low when he finally spoke. "I didn't anticipate things getting this terrible. You know, I figured you'd still." "What's left?" I inquired. "Keep your ass covered. Continue to pay your debts. Every time something broke, you had to use your parents' retirement funds to play entrepreneur." He didn't respond, simply glanced down. "We were wrong," my father said softly. "Now we can see that." I let the stillness to linger. Then, slowly and calmly, I spoke. "It wasn't because I intended to harm you when I left. I ultimately understood that you just kept me around because of what I could contribute. Therefore, I left. And I ceased to matter as soon as I stopped providing." They all appeared to want to cry, debate, or plead. Rather, I declared, "This is my home now. You're requesting my assistance while standing on my doorstep. None of you ever imagined that you would say that." My mother contacted me. "Can't we simply begin again?" I took the folder, held it. "I'll give it some thought," I responded. "Not for your benefit, though." I shut the door after that. Just closed, not smashed. Quiet, firm, and decisive. I refrained from opening the folder. I didn't have to. What it stated didn't matter. They could have included a gift card to Home Depot, stapled a handwritten apology, and written me back into the will in gold ink. It's too late. The paper wasn't the cause of the harm. It has to do with the years they spent watching me bear their home. Despite the financial, emotional, and physical costs, they decided to give it to someone else. That cannot be fixed by a signature. A few days went by. The next anticipated stage of guilt followed. It seemed as though a crisis PR agency was handling my mom's Facebook page. An image of a vase of flowers. Caption: "Attempting to be resilient when things go wrong." A grainy image of the home at sunset. Caption: "When your children go even after you gave them everything." The remarks followed. "Hugs to you, Denise. Your daughter will change her mind." They always do. Today's kids don't understand what family means, do they? Today's youth are also ignorant of the concept of delinquent mortgages, gaslighting wrapped in a thank you card, or mildew beneath the sink. My father then added his own interpretation of subtlety. Although we believed our kid had a heart, I suppose TikTok opinions are more significant than supporting family. I'm on Instagram to start. Second, I would have gone viral with the entire tale if I wanted publicity, but I didn't. Not quite yet. Adam then shared a fuzzy photo with a black hoodie and a message that said blank face. "There are those who are only strong when they are demeaning others. When someone is in need, try to be strong." I didn't publish or respond. People began texting me despite my failure to provide an explanation. High school pals. A few followers of my remodeling account, for whom I had did freelancing work, happened to identify the property. "Hello, are you involved? You mentioned that you paid for your parents' roof, right? This is absurd. Do you want me to say something?" I didn't want to fight, though. I desired a moment. And I handed them one when I was ready. One night, I uploaded a picture. Only one. 218 Elm Street is the address. A before and after. Previously, vivid paint, tidy yard. After then, the sun came out. Sign for sale. The lawn has brown spots. Nothing ever replaced a drooping portrayal of Adam. I then included an additional slide, the Wells scan page, which I had read months before, that declared Adam to be the only heir. Slide 3, a few of receipts bearing my name, HVAC maintenance and roof replacement. Labeled for my checking account are mortgage payments. Slide #4, My mother texted me 2 weeks after I discovered the well. Is it possible to provide $1,700 for the mortgage? Friday is the deadline. What about my caption? Easy. I wasn't guilty for keeping quiet. I only awaited the opportunity to speak the truth. Now is the time. No one was tagged by me. I didn't accuse, identify people, or provide an explanation. The facts sat there like bricks, and I did nothing. It received almost 2,000 likes in under 3 hours. DMs were flooding my inbox. People were upset with me, enraged. Above all, however, they were appreciative. I had to read this. I appreciate you stating what I was unable to. All my life, I've been the responsible one. I'm done too. I never posted again. I didn't have to. My mom's posts had disappeared by morning. The profile photo of my dad vanished. Adam has his account on private. This time, the stillness felt more pure. Weeks went by. I continued to renovate. I put my very first framed artwork in the hallway and planted lavender on the small patch of earth by my door. I snapped a picture of the light coming through the blinds in my bedroom. I began instructing a workshop at the neighborhood community center once a week, remodeling as a kind of therapy. The majority of the students arrived with notebooks, questions, and trauma in their toolkits, despite not even owning any stuff. After class, a woman in her mid-50s grabbed me aside and told me, "You know, it's not just the wood you're sanding down. They did it to you." He understood. Lorraine phoned early on a Saturday morning. "The home of your parents is once again for sale. The price fell once more. It appears like nobody wants to handle the situation." I hung up after thanking her. I experienced no emotions, nor happiness, nor sympathy. Just to be sure, when you cease fixing a home, some of them collapse. Others do as well. I received a letter a few days later. The blue envelope. Penmanship that is familiar. Mom, Emily, please. I'll simply say it since I'm not sure how to begin. I apologize for my error. We were mistaken. I have no idea how to make things better. Your father's strength has diminished. We're afraid. I'm not sure how long we have to put things right. However, I'm still available if you're willing. I folded the letter. I didn't hear it. I didn't answer. I put it in the drawer under my desk, with old pictures I hadn't yet processed and half-used notebooks. Understanding certain things takes time. Reopening some items is not necessary. I didn't despise them. I just had nothing more to offer those who only realized my value when it was too late. I held my first picture display in a friend's cafe a month later. The core idea? Weather-resistant structures. In one of the prints, ivy was wrapped around a twisted fence post. Another displayed a flower blossoming through a little fissure on the pavement. In front of a black and white photograph of the hallway of my apartment, which was illuminated by the early light, one woman stood. "I don't know why, but your photos feel like they're speaking for someone who's been silent for a long time," she remarked, turning to face me. I grinned and nodded, remained silent, because she was correct. I've always believed that love must be earned, that I would be quiet enough if I contributed enough. I proved myself sufficiently. I would be selected. I would be appreciated. Now, however, I now understand that love devoid of respect is only greater public relations trickery. Boundaries aren't unkind, I've learned. They are a matter of survival. I now understand that leaving doesn't mean giving up. It is awakening. My family remains on paper in remembrance, but not in my future. At last, I stopped erecting the barriers, and I never turned around. Nearly a year has passed since I shut down 218 Elm Street. The house finally sold at a loss since I was no longer the one keeping everything together. Lorraine informed me that the new owners completely destroyed the property, stating that while it had solid foundations, a complete overhaul was necessary. The irony made me laugh out loud. Adam and a friend moved in together. My folks moved across town to a rental after downsizing. We haven't communicated, not at all. A few months ago, I received another letter from my mother. This shorter one just said, "I miss you. I have not responded. No, I doubt I will. Because this is what I've discovered. Choosing peace might often mean choosing to keep your distance. Reconnection is not always a prerequisite for forgiveness. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to just walk away. However, I am aware that not everyone will share my viewpoint. I want to ask you now, do you believe I made the correct decision? Was I too severe? When they came seeking for assistance, should I have welcomed them with open arms? Or was it time for me to let go of those who only recognized my value after I stopped giving? What would you have done, please? And whether you found resonance in this narrative? If you've ever been the responsible, quiet person who made the decision to stop bleeding for others who didn't even notice, then this is for you. For more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.